John Libby, president of Houses and Barns by John Libby. I started the company in 1971 as a handyman odd job business. Timber framing is our forte.
My name is Tim Hanley, and I'm currently a senior at Bowdoin College. For as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with building things. Blocks, toy trains, helping my dad in the workshop. I was the kid who spent all day peeking out the window when our house was re-roofed. About halfway through my time at Bowdoin, I began to develop a serious interest in the construction industry. And on July 14th, I'll join Suffolk Construction in Boston as a project engineer. When I started this project, the goal was simple: to pick a construction project and share it so those who might not find the process so interesting could see it in a new light. As you'll see, that changed a little. When I arrived in Freeport for the first day of construction, I quickly realized that I didn't quite know what I was getting into. As the crew loaded up the frame, I sat down with John Libby to see if I could learn a little more before the work started on site.
Yeah, conventional framing is done with 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, 2x12, that sort of thing. For wall frame and floor frame. Timber frame is sizable members, 6x6, 8x8, 10x8, 8x10, on it goes. And those frames are a truly joined frame, which means mortise and tenons are assembled and fitted together. Mortise is the female and tenon is the male, and it is secured with an oak peg, which is a trunnel, and built in bents, which is a cross-section of framing member.
Here in Pine Point, we're putting together a 4-bent frame. This is day 1 of assembly. So our goal today is to get some bents together and probably something stood up in the air. The frame should be largely complete by Wednesday, so about 2.5 days total if everything goes according to plan.
Through day 1, everything did seem to go as Peter had planned. The first bent was raised and secured, and the remaining 3 bents were assembled on the deck, ready to be raised on day 2. On day 2, a man lift was delivered to help assemble the rest of the frame. And as the crew began raising the next bent, I thought back to my conversation with John.
So the bents are raised, and when the bents are raised and connected, it creates a bay. So there are a series of bents and bays that create the structure themselves.
By the end of day 2, all 4 bents were raised and connected, creating 3 bays that formed the box of the house. As day 3 began, planking was applied to the top of the frame so the crew could walk on top of the structure to assemble the roof beams. The rafters were raised and connected with beams called purlins. Before long, the last beam of the frame was raised. Some strong winds blew the beam around a bit, but eventually it was secured, and as the crane pulled back, it revealed the largely completed frame. Now that I had seen the entire structure assembled and raised, I realized there was going to be much more to my film than just showing how construction could be interesting. Admittedly, I didn't really know what I was getting into. The process really showed me how selecting a timber frame job is what made this project different.
Just that. There's nothing in these posts.
I think these posts are 3.5 by 3.5, which...
To me, compared with conventional framing, timber framing was much more like putting together a puzzle, something John's initial descriptions certainly seemed to reflect.
Pre-assemble the bents and bays in the shop with the drilling for the tunnels as well. So when all the shop work is complete, the frame has actually already been assembled in our shop. It then goes to the site. It's already proven to fit perfectly, and it gets assembled and raised on the site. We know where every piece goes by the indication on the timber, A1 and B1, C, that sort of thing. A, B, C, D, one direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, another direction.
After following the raising process from start to finish, one of John's initial comments seemed to be the backbone of my change in perspective.
Why do we do it? Are we nuts, right? It allows to have some open spans, basically living inside a large piece of furniture. It's a finely crafted frame that the house or the barn is created around, and it is a different mindset of building. It's certainly more of a craftsman approach as opposed to a slam bang get it done approach. The time it takes to cut a timber frame and raise a timber frame is probably double the time of manpower of building the same thing out of conventional frame building.
The finished frame was truly a craftsman product. My initial intent was to make my film almost entirely in time-lapse to capture the overall scope of the project. What I realized was that together, time-lapse and timber framing didn't really work. Sure, you can see pieces go together and maybe it'll be interesting to watch, but it just doesn't do it justice. It doesn't show the craft that makes timber framing so unique. To fully appreciate the process, I needed to review hours of footage, and at times even slow down clips. Being on site every day for 2 weeks wasn't even enough. To me, making this film was eye-opening, but for John and the crew, it was just another day at the office.
other than that, we're following the client's desire to build his dream home.